Three, two, one.
I'm Kelsa Dickey, and this is the Earn and Invest podcast.
In medicine, we have a saying about learning procedures that I think carries over to the world of financial coaching. See one, do one, teach one. The corollary is, as an aspiring financial coach, first we have to get our own finances in order. Then, if coaching is our plan, we have to help others do the same. See one, do one. And last, we can become the teacher of teachers, the coach of coaches, and teach financial coaches how to be better advocates and business people. See one, do one, teach one. That's exactly what today's guest has done. In this episode, we'll be discussing everything financial coaching and how to become a coach of coaches in whatever you do. Kelsa Dickey is a financial coach for people who want to Kelsa Dickey is a financial coach for people who want clarity around their finances and confidence in their money decisions. She's here to change the world through financial coaching by inspiring and building a community of coaches who share her vision and values. Kelsa's Facebook group, Financial Coaches Unite, has thousands of members across the globe. She's also trained hundreds of coaches through the Financial Coach Academy, her online course. Kelsa has appeared on and provided money insights for USA Today, CNN Money, Yahoo, and MSN Money. Kelsa Dickey, welcome to Earn and Invest. First and foremost, how did you become a coach of coaches?
I became a coach of coaches purely by accident because if you would have known me probably 10 to 12 years ago, I used to say, I will never hire or train another financial coach. I used to say that all of the time. So I started financial coaching. I launched my business 16 years ago, but I was doing financial advising and definitely helping people with their money before that, just in a different way. And I loved it, but I used to say all the time that I would never hire or train another financial coach. And so the fact that I actually do that now, I like to call myself out that anytime you say never or always, the universe will probably prove you wrong in some way. But really it came down to, I was helping people. I was having a full client load after a while. So again, with Fiscal Fitness, that's the name of my coaching business where I was helping people with their money. It got to the point where I was having a full client list and I couldn't take more clients. And one of my clients, Jill Emanuel, she had been a client of mine for a number of years, had sort of mentioned to me that she would like to do what I do, that she fell in love with it. And she had experienced this massive transformation. And she was a pharmacist at the time. So she had a doctorate in pharmacy and decided that this was her passion and that it completely changed her life. And she wanted to help other people do the same thing. And the nice thing was that because she was a client of mine first, the learning curve of trying to get her up to speed on sort of my philosophies and my approach during coaching sessions and the type of advice that I give and all of that, which is very different, especially at the time, it was very, very different than sort of like a lot of the things you see on radio shows and that sort of thing. I didn't have to explain a lot of that to her. So I sort of thought to myself, well, we could help more people. I can't help more people, but if I hired Jill and she's, the cool thing about financial coaching is I get to see clients in so many different ways of life. So, Jill, I got to see her when things were really, really tough and how did she handle that, right? I got to see how did she communicate with her spouse. I got to see how she problem solved and would brainstorm ideas and come up with solutions and all of that. And so I felt like I really knew her. And so Jill was my very first hire. She is still with me today. She's my lead coach on my team. And so hiring her was my very first step. And in my mind, that's all that I was going to do. I was going to hire Jill. We were going to be able to help more people. And also, I wouldn't feel so alone, right? So running my business by myself, it sort of felt like you're kind of on your own island a little bit. There weren't any other financial coaches that I really knew at the time. So I didn't have a bunch of people I could sort of brainstorm ideas with. So I thought this will also be fun in that way, right? I'll have somebody that we can talk about different client situations with and all of that. And then once I hired and trained Jill and I saw the impact she was having on our clients' lives, something happened where I realized that the joy I got from helping individuals, the fact that I witnessed Jill getting those same results with people was even greater joy for me personally. Like here, I thought that I couldn't possibly be any happier than I am when I'm meeting with a client and helping them with their money. And then sitting there and getting a testimonial from a client on sort of what their transformation was with their finances and how they were feeling about money and how their life was better. And it wasn't because of me, but it was because of somebody I taught completely transformed the way I saw it, which was like, wow, I can actually have an even bigger impact. And this feels even better than I imagined. So that's really then what led to me deciding to train and hire other coaches.
So I kind of jumped the eight ball a little bit because, I talked about see one, do one, teach one, and we jumped right into the teaching one. But I'd like to go back to the see one, do one. Talk about the financial modeling you grew up with as a kid and how that led you to want to become a financial coach.
The financial modeling that I grew up as a kid was how not to do it. So, when I was in middle school, my mom filed bankruptcy. And of course, as a middle schooler, I didn't know what bankruptcy meant. I just knew that it was a very stressful time of her life. And I knew that I had to do with money. And I just so vividly remember being sitting on my couch and somebody knocking on the door, and my mom answered the door, and it was my aunt who lived nearby and my mom's sister, and they hugged. And I remember my aunt sort of like patting her on the back saying it's going to be okay, and my mom saying, crying through, saying I had to file bankruptcy. And so I just knew that it was stressful. And I also remember she had a great job. She was a hard worker. She tried so hard to manage her money well. I remember her sitting at our dining room table sometimes for hours with just like a stack of mail and a legal pad and a calculator, and just her trying to figure it out. She was a single mom of three girls and just doing her best, and really didn't understand, didn't have a skill set, right, of really knowing how to manage her money well. She is retired now. And I like people to know that my mom's actually doing really well in retirement, because at the time she was investing into her workplace 401k. She was putting money aside for the future. It wasn't that part of her financial life that was causing the stress. It was the here and now. It's the money coming in and out of her checking account. It's going to the sports meetings and hearing about what that season was going to cost, and her thinking like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? Like, I want my kids to do this. This is so great for their development and teamwork and all sorts of things. And yet how can I make this work? And just seeing that there were so many moments as a child where she couldn't be present in the moment because of financial stress, because of worry around how am I going to make my car payment in a few days and those types of things. And when I was a senior in high school, a college recruiter had came to the school, like a guidance counselor, and said, what do you want to do when you're older? And I said, I want to help people with their money. That was my answer. And so he said, you should become a financial advisor. And I said, okay, that sounds perfect. I really went to college, got a personal financing degree, became a financial advisor with this idea that it would be my dream career, that I would love it, that it would be perfect, that I'd be helping people with their money. And what started to happen, I did that for 3 years. And what I realized was the part of money that I really was passionate about was not, I didn't need to be licensed as a financial advisor to do it. It wasn't the asset allocation and risk tolerance and portfolio management and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't investments or insurance. It was the day-to-day part of money. So a client would come in and say, I'm in debt and I need help getting out of it. And I would be like, yes, let's roll up our sleeves. Let's do this. This is awesome. But this was now 20 years ago. And back then it was like fee-based planning was not really a thing. So I didn't get paid to help people with this part of their money as a financial advisor, even though it was the part of money that I really enjoyed and felt the most passionate about. So that was when I decided to leave financial advising and start fiscal fitness and say, when I started, I remember saying, I'm just going to help people with budgeting. That's what I want to do. Now it has obviously become so much more vast as far as the things that I help my clients with. But that was really how it started, just that simple desire to focus on that part of money.
It seems to me your average person is going to think 100% of the time they need financial advising. Yet when you talk about your trajectory, there is a very clear demarcation in your brain about what a financial advisor does versus what a financial coach does. So for people listening right now, what is the difference between the two?
Yeah, I would say today, now, um, you can have financial advisors or financial planners who also do financial coaching. If you have financial coaches who dip their toe into investments and insurance, then they should be fully licensed. I just want to make that determination, or I want to make that clear. Where back in the day, like I said, there really was a more clear distinction between the two. And I will also say that, I'm going to start this. Can I, you
Yep.
said go back. So I'm going to go
Just go
back to,
three, two, one, and start again.
okay, 3, 2, 1. A financial coach typically focuses more on the day-to-day finances. So what you've got coming in and out of your checking account, the decisions you're making in the here and now. And a financial advisor typically has a longer term focus. So in the future, long-term focus, making sure you're ready for the time of your life when you're no longer working, and you're making an income and that sort of thing. Back in the day when I first started financial coaching, like I was saying, I started as a financial advisor, but left that in order to become a financial coach because that was really the only way to do it back in the day. You couldn't get paid as a financial advisor to help people with budgeting and that sort of thing. That's not so much the case anymore. So I will say that there are more financial advisors who are offering coaching services as part of their practices and as part of their business. Either they're doing it as well as some of the advising, or they're hiring coaches for their firm and for their practice. So you can sort of have a bit of a one-stop shop. I will say though that a lot of the advisors I talk to who are still practicing advising and they're the ones meeting with the clients and that sort of thing, they sort of adopt the philosophy that I adopt, which is like, let's pick a lane and stay in a lane, right? Let me be really good at this part of helping people. And I'm going to trust somebody else to come in if a client needs help with this other part of it. So I refer clients to financial advisors when it comes to that part of their life. And I have a lot of financial advisors who refer clients to me because they're really great at that piece of it. And they don't have the setup as far as the tools and that sort of thing in order to do a lot of the coaching. I would also say probably the biggest distinction is something that Brian Stevenson calls the power of proximity. As a financial coach, I am seeing everything. Like we are turning over every leaf. I am looking at all the expenses, the income, your debt, your savings, and we are trying to optimize it as best as we possibly can. And it is very hands-on. I typically start by meeting with my clients every single week. But we are talking almost every single day in the first month because they're making the types of decisions that a financial coach helps a client with are the decisions that they're making real time every single day. And in order to be there to help a client with those types of decisions, the level of proximity that I need to have, both to their money and in a form of communication, needs to be at a level that oftentimes advisors are not offering. So, advisors, you might meet with a client quarterly, let's say, or every 6 months, or sometimes once a year, depending on how that advisor is set up. But a financial coach is going to be way more hands on. One of the things that advisors tell me sometimes is they refer clients to me who seem uh, like they're going to be a lot of work, or there's a lot to comb through, or it feels like they don't have the time or the capacity to help them. And that is exactly who we as financial coaches help, is the person that's like the cobweb is so intertwined. It's so tangled, like that cobweb. And we just have to get really specific and dialed in to like keep pulling on different levers of that cobweb to figure out how we can unravel it.
I mean, is it safe to say that a coach is going to deal more with budgeting and some long-term planning, whereas an advisor is really going to focus more on investing per se?
Yes, I think that that's fair. And I will say that typically, for me at least, we start with budgeting and planning, is how I would say it. And then it translates into wealth generation and figuring out who they need to go to for that next stage. So we're going to talk about different avenues of generating wealth. Are you interested in real estate? Are you interested in starting a business? Are you interested in angel investing? Or do you want to start talking about the stock market and passive investments and that sort of thing? Like, where does the client want to explore? And really, our thing is like, my goal with money is always to get the client's buy-in. So one thing that I truly believe needs to shift around money, which is one of the reasons I started training other coaches, is because I felt like this message wasn't out there enough, is this idea that just because we deal with math when it comes to money doesn't mean that the best decision for a client to make when they're facing a decision is the one that looks the best financially. That just because the spreadsheet shows you that this one's the best, gets you the best financial results, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's best for the client. And that we need to bring this holistic view into money and not be so analytical, such number crunchers that we forget that a person's buy-in is so important to the trajectory of that goal. And what I mean is, if I tell a client, okay, here's this way to get out of debt, and you're going to get out of debt in a year, but you're going to have to cut all of these expenses. Your lifestyle is going to go down to nothing, but in a year, you're going to get out of debt. And here's how much interest you're going to pay during that time. That looks beautiful, probably financially, right? But if the client isn't bought into that and they don't get excited about that and they think, that's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle, all of that, then the likelihood that that actually happens the way it looks on a spreadsheet is so unlikely, right? Like it's probably not going to happen that way. It's going to happen worse. Whereas the choice that the client makes might take 3 years to get out of debt, right? But we're going to talk about ways we can optimize your situation in the meantime, so you're paying as little interest as possible or that kind of thing. But if you are excited by it, and if you can see that progress can be made, that you're going to be able to achieve some other goals at the exact same time while you get out of debt, and you feel like that's something that matches the life you're trying to live, chances are it's actually going to end up happening better because you're going to be more creative. You're going to be a better problem solver. You're going to be more motivated to actually stay on that journey. And so to me, that's an example of like, I try to bring that conversation in with my clients. Is this isn't about what I want for your life. This isn't about what I think is the best choice for you. This is about talking through each option and making sure the picture of what that plan is going to look like for you is very clear. You know how you're going to have to show up, how disciplined will you have to be, how committed does this look, like that kind of thing, and then helping you decide which one feels right for you.
I mean, this sounds like a pretty intimate relationship. How does one go about finding a good financial coach? And specifically, are there some warning signs as you're starting to engage with someone?
Yes, I think interviewing financial coaches is very important. I think there is a maturity that comes over time with the more people a financial coach helps, where they start to see the nuance in people, that everybody comes to them with different experiences and different goals and different skill sets. You know, I have some clients who like a level of specificity. Like their plan is very detailed. We know probably where just about every dollar goes inside of their plan, and it's very specific. And then I have other clients where if I were to give them that level of specificity, it would almost overwhelm their mind. They wouldn't be able to handle it. They wouldn't enjoy it. They wouldn't see it. They literally wouldn't be able to see it because it's just too confusing, right? So we're going to have more general buckets, or we're going to have more general categories, and we're going to probably have goals around their money that could be a feeling as opposed to like a very specific number, if you will. And the reason I do that is because I've helped so many people at this point that I know the best thing that I can do is help a client gain self-awareness and what way is going to be best for them to manage their money more than just about anything. Not compare themselves to somebody else, not think that there's just one way of managing their money that will work for everybody. I always say that there is a way that each person can manage their money that will work best for them. We just have to discover it. Right. So that is my job. That came through experience, though. And so if you're talking with somebody and they immediately go into talking about money specifically, and especially expenses. In my mind, when it comes to money and getting ahead, there is a hyper focus on spending less, being frugal, managing your expenses, and that sort of thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's an element of what we do, right? But that message is out there so much. Chances are my client has already heard that. They don't need to hear that from me. What they need to hear is, why is it important for them to get ahead financially? What are they going to be able to do if we make these changes, or if we talk through this and if they get started? And how about driving your income or starting a small business, or like those types of things? So if a coach immediately goes into cutting expenses, trimming expenses, and that sort of thing, I think that that is a little bit of a red flag. If they're not asking you any questions about what you want, why you want it, what you've already tried. One of the questions I ask every single client during our very first question is, during our very first session, excuse me, is, tell me some of the things you've tried. I want to hear about your journey so far with trying to manage your money. Because if you've tried something and it didn't work for you, you hated it, why would we try it again? You know what I mean? Like chances are, I want to find the ways that you haven't tried yet. So if they're not asking those types of questions, that is what I would say. The other thing is, I do believe that proximity is important. So, you know, asking them how they take care of their clients. I always tell the coaches that I train that coaching doesn't just happen during the coaching session, but with every interaction and exchange you have with your clients, from the email confirmation they receive for the appointment to the contract you have them sign, to everything. Because the more supported a person feels through change, the more likely they can show up for themselves and just focus on making the changes. They don't need to worry about like, am I supposed to talk with her? Can I ask her this question? How do I get a hold of her? What time is my appointment? Like all of these types of things are part of the coaching process that makes it so the client can get results, right? So asking them, how do you support me during this process? What are the touch points? How are we going to be communicating? And those types of things are also really important for the overall journey of change.
We've been talking to Kelsa Dickey. She is a financial coach for people who want clarity around their finances and confidence in their money decisions. And we are talking about financial coaching and eventually becoming a coach of coaches. We're going to take a short break. I'm Doc G, and this is the Earn and Invest podcast. All right, I'm going to read us back in a moment. Any problems, questions? We've been talking at this point about being a consumer of financial coaching. So now we're going to move towards becoming a financial coach, and then we'll end in being a coach of coaches, just so you understand the trajectory. All right. On 3, 2, 1. We are back with Kelsa Dickey. She is here to change the world through financial coaching by inspiring and building a community of coaches who share her vision and values. Kelsa's Facebook group is Financial Coaches Unite. And we are discussing financial coaching. Before the break, we discussed what it was like to work with a financial coach. Now I want to move on to the idea of becoming a financial coach. First and foremost, Kelsa, how does someone go about doing that? And what kind of training do you need?
I would say the very first thing that coaches typically have when they come to me, when they're sort of just thinking of the idea of becoming a coach, is a desire to help people. So a lot of the times a person has been managing their own money. Sometimes they've been managing it well their whole life and they know the role that that's played, maybe the opportunities it's given them, the choices they've been able to make for themselves, or they experience their own transformation with money where they're like, I used to be bad with it and now I'm good with it. And that completely changed other parts of my life and had a ripple effect. And I want to help other people experience it. But that is typically number one. In the way that you want to help people, you also don't shy away from talking about money. So you sort of have a desire to talk about money, you're interested in it, you sort of enjoy managing yourself in whatever way, or you listen to podcasts like this or read the books and like that kind of thing. There's just a genuine interest. And that is really important because like my job is to sort of help a person feel that way. But a lot of times my clients, when they first come to me, they're not thinking like, I want to become obsessed with money. I want to be like super good with managing my money. Like that's not their goal, really and truly. Their goal isn't to be like a money geek like me, right? And like you, right? Their goal is like, I just got to make this easier. Like there's just got to be a better way. Like I just have to find a way to do this. And so really it comes down to the very first thing is just a desire to help people first and foremost, and a genuine interest around personal finance and money and that sort of thing. So those are typically the two things. You do not need to have a degree in finance or accounting or anything like that to be a financial coach. As we know, coaching in general is an unregulated industry. So a lot of times people assume that because it's called financial coaching that we must be under the umbrella of financial advising, but that is actually not true. So we are under the umbrella of coaching and then life coaching, and then financial coaching is sort of like a subset of that. So it's goal,
Hey,
managing
Kelsa.
your.
Hey, Kelsa, I lost you for a moment. I don't know what happened. I either lost internet or what have you. You were saying
Weird.
that
Sorry.
coaching is a subset of. Do you mind picking it up back there? I
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
know what happened. I literally lost you for about 5 seconds.
No problem. No
On
problem.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Coaching is actually a subset of coaching and then I'm sorry. Nope. Let me start over. Sorry. Uh, a lot of people assume that financial coaching is a subset of financial advising when really it's a subset of life coaching. So there's coaching and then life coaching, and then we're sort of like a micro niche inside of life coaching. And that is because the things that we help people with are practical life skills a lot of the times, right? So it is the goal setting, the skill stacking, the new habits, all of those types of things, and also the financial side of it. But the financial side is not investments or insurance like financial advising. It is the budgeting, it's the clarity, it's looking at your money, it's making smart decisions, knowing how to analyze. Somebody comes to me, and oftentimes a young adult will come to me and say, I want to be a financial coach someday. I'm going to go to college. Should I get a degree in finance? And I actually tell them, no, I would get psychology. Like, I think human behavior, the development of our people and the people we're serving, helping them feel bought into their life, like that to me is the human side of financial coaching, is the more nuanced side of things than the financial side of things. The financial side of things for most of us is going to be the easier part, right? And you can learn that it is, information around money is out there. What people need help with is meeting with somebody who gets it, right? And understands them and takes the time to understand them, asks good questions, knows how to motivate them when the going gets tough, doesn't shame them. That's really important. Shame is a short-term motivator. It is not going to last for most people. So using shame in coaching is something that I'm adamantly against. And I like to, preach that as loud as I can. So you don't need that. I would say coaching skills are where I really encourage most financial people to invest your time and energy in your learning when you're first starting, because the money part of it, if you think about it, it's somewhat basic math where, addition and subtraction, we got some spreadsheets we can use as tools, which I also tell coaches all the time, like, do not use your spreadsheet as a crutch. A lot of the times my clients, if I were to open up a spreadsheet, they're very intimidated by something like that. They can get very overwhelmed by a very robust spreadsheet where I might think like, this is so much fun. Let's play around with this, right?
Mhm.
So I always tell coaches that the spreadsheet paints a picture for you in some way. It's telling you something. What is it telling you? That's what you communicate to the client. The client doesn't necessarily need to see the inner workings of your spreadsheet. They need the picture formed for them that the spreadsheet tells. And so, having the tools of communication, and then I would also say business skills, because knowing how to, you know, work with a person, how do you get them to schedule with you? Money is one of those things. It's such a pervasive problem in our world, and yet so many people are afraid to ask for help. And so, what do you do first with them? What kind of conversation are you having so that they feel supported and they don't feel as if you're going to just tell them they need to cut out their latte, you know what I mean? And like those types of things. So, really setting it up from a business perspective where the client is the focus. It's the client journey, and what they're experiencing is the focus, is also really important.
And what are the credentialing mechanisms, and are they?
There are currently no credentialing requirements for financial coaching, which in some sense I understand, because it's a newer profession. It really is. I mean, even, 16 years ago when I first launched my business, I joke that I made up the title financial coach. I did not know any other
Mm.
financial coaches.
Mm.
This was not like I saw somebody doing it. I was like, that's what I want to do too. And so if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it is a profession in its infancy stage, right? And up until now, I will also say that the conversation about money has been more analytical, more tactical, more on the analysis side of things. And it hasn't brought in, I mean, when I first started Doc 16 years ago, people told me all of the time, you can't bring emotion into money. Don't talk about feelings when it comes to money. Money is just math. Right now, thankfully, that conversation has shifted over the years. I still think we probably need to keep having that conversation a little bit more about how important the way we think and the way we feel plays into our financial decisions, and that it's not always just simple math. But that is what it was for so long. And so there really isn't a credential nowadays that can give a person every single skill they need around financial coaching specifically. So typically in the Financial Coach Academy, my training, we tackle it from three perspectives. Financial skills. So how do you analyze decisions financially? It doesn't matter what the decision is. We've probably got some sort of training or video lesson that can help a coach help the client with that. The coaching skill set. So how do you ask good questions? How do you hold space? How do you pay attention to what your client is saying, but also not saying, is really important. How do you pay attention to their nonverbal communication, all that kind of stuff. And then also the business side of things. So we really do tackle it from three different avenues. If you want to have a private practice as a financial coach, that is what the Financial Coach Academy will help you do. but there is no other training that handles all three of those things. So if you want a certification, typically you can go to like ICF, which is like the coaching federation, International Coaching Federation, to get a certification for coaching specifically. You could take a financial course from a university or a college to learn about different financial programs, but a lot, and then you can sort of go to SCORE or any of these things to like get business training, right? But there is not currently a certification. You can have certifications that are about a specific method. So you've got like the YNAB certification, which is like, I want to use this tool in my coaching, and so I'm going to do that, or like Profit First certification if I'm going to only use that method. My approach though is I am never going to be beholden to one method. Like I might have one client come in and we use YNAB. I might have another client come in and they use pen and paper or a spreadsheet. Like every client's going to be a little different. So in my mind, if you're going to do that, you're going to end up doing all of the certifications then, if that makes sense.
So a lot of people are listening here and they've thought about financial coaching. Maybe they're looking into your program or another one. Tell me what it actually looks like. So here I am. I feel like I'm qualified. I've managed my own finances. I've had financial coaching. Maybe I've done some training. How do you, so to speak, hang up your sign, hang up your shingle, like, and what do you charge? And how do you begin this process if you are a beginning solopreneur wanting to do financial coaching?
Yes, I actually have a training on my website that's completely free. So everyone go check it out, financialcoachacademy.com. That's all about like, here's how you get started. So if you want to just get started in the most simplest, fastest way, you feel like you've got the training, you feel like you can help people, right? That's first and foremost. And then it's just a matter of how do you go about doing it? There's a free training that kind of says, here's exactly what you need, here's what you don't need, because there's also a lot of conversations around, I need to have this robust website and all of that, which, there's simpler ways to get started oftentimes. Typically, what it looks like, I am a huge proponent of one-on-one financial coaching. So private sessions, you can add in a bit of a hybrid program. I mean, you can really do it however you want, but really my area of expertise is private one-to-one coaching, where you are sitting down with somebody and you are meeting with them. And like you were saying, it's very intimate. We're, not just meeting one time and then I give you some things to do and I see you next month and we'll see how it goes. Like it is very real time decision making and help and support and that kind of thing. So that's really my area of expertise. So you can do a hybrid where you could do one-to-one sessions with like a group session every month where everybody hops on and can ask questions or those types of things. There's definitely an area for that too. You could do courses, which I would advise against personally. The people who, there's nothing wrong with having a course. Let me be clear about that. But if you want to be a financial coach who's helping people to get like really significant results, they're the type of person who needs a lot of handholding, who needs one-to-one coaching, is not the same niche or client who wants a course and DIY it from home from their computer, if that makes sense. So it's like the results are different. And this is definitely something, Doc, that I had a whole sort of journey around where I launched a course, had a course for a number of years. And I typically don't recommend coaches start there because the average completion rate in the United States for courses is 12%. So 1 out of 10 people, when they sign up for a course, register for it, only 1 in 10 actually complete it. If you are a newer coach who has a desire to go into this work because you want to help people, to see 1 out of 10 people getting results from your offering can be such a damaging part of your psyche, right? Like it can really hurt your psyche of being like, I want to help people. I think what I've got is good, but it's not working for people. And it's not because your advice probably isn't good. It's the container in which you're putting it
The
in,
format,
right?
yeah.
The reality is personal finance information is readily available on Google, right? Like there is no shortage of it. What people need is not more information about money. They need the nuanced strategy of how to apply it to their life. So financial literacy is, I'm going to teach you about money. And that a financial educator might say knowledge is power, right? A financial coach would say applied knowledge is power. We are all about the application of what you learn, applying it to your everyday life, applying it to how you manage your money and that kind of thing. And I'm not satisfied until we found a way to apply different strategies to a person's life that work for them, right? That it's really hard for a lot of people to get that level of support from anything other than a conversation and really hands-on help from somebody. Not only that, but I also think when it comes to money specifically, the conversation is the greatest asset to the person. Talking through things, right? So there are so many times where a person feels shame or embarrassed, and it's through the conversation that helps them to feel better about it, you know? And so many people are just verbal processors, and they actually do a lot better when they can talk through a decision with somebody. And if they can talk through a decision with somebody who knows their financial position, knows their dreams, knows what they're trying to achieve, knows what's most important to them, it feels like a very well-rounded conversation that is such a key part of that offering, if that makes sense.
So I started this conversation with my introduction where I talked about this idea of see one, do one, teach one, right? When it comes to finances, we're talking about managing your own finances, see one, help other people by becoming a coach, do one, and finally teach one, which is this idea of becoming a teacher of teachers or a coach of coaches. And I want to broaden this conversation because there's a lot of people out there listening to this episode right now. They're already in the midst of their career. They're starting to really realize there's been an evolution of their skills and they're becoming experts in things, something. So a lot of these people are saying, what is up next for me? And I think this road you've taken by becoming a teacher of teachers is a great way to think for a lot of people starting to get towards financial independence, people who are looking to maybe leave their job and start their own business where they have all this experience. How do we know when it's time to become the teacher of teachers? How do we know when it's time to actually train other people to do the thing that you've become an expert in?
I think number one, when you have achieved a version of success that you know other people would get excited about too, right? So people don't need to sort of have the same business model that I have as a financial coach, but they want to have the same impact that I have, right, with people. And so the next thing I would say is the impact piece, where it's like you're helping people. You feel really good about that. And now you want to have a greater impact. And this is one of those things, again, I sort of figured it out the hard way, which was like I hired Jill and I realized the joy that I got from seeing a bigger impact that I could have, where I can only help so many individuals myself as their individual coach. But if I can help 20 coaches, then those 20 coaches help 20 clients. I can actually have a much greater impact. And so I would say those two things, that when you really start to feel the impact, you have it's like noodling at you, like, I got to do more. I got to help more people. I have, that sort of thing. And when you feel as if like you figured it out, you're like, man, I am doing great work here. I feel my life is great. I have a successful business and it's paying for my livelihood and all that. And I'm doing it in a way that helps people. I always say that financial coaching is the most gratifying work. I literally help people achieve their goals every day, right? Like they're driven people who we line up their money to achieve whatever goal it is that they have. Because if you think about it, name any goal that a person has in life. It does not matter what the goal is. Managing your money better or having more money would make that goal happen faster or easier, right? So if your goal is to lose weight, being able to eat organic food and buy better fruits and vegetables, hiring a personal chef, let's say, or a personal trainer or a health coach, or, having better supplements or medications, all of those types of things are just an example of money is a tool that helps us achieve whatever goal we have in life and happen faster and quicker and that kind of thing. So we get to help people. And it's not like, oh, 25 years later, when you retire, I get to see the fruits of our work, right? That I get to see, did we do a good job with your financial plan? It's very real time that people are experiencing the benefits of getting ahead with their money and managing their money better and that kind of thing. So it's very gratifying work. And to feel like I could share that work with somebody else and let somebody else be able to do that work for people too and experience that level of satisfaction and fulfillment. If you feel as if you enjoy your work, it has a positive impact in the world, and by helping other people, they get to experience that and you get to have a greater impact. To me, that is how you know you found the sweet spot.
So we're talking about impact and greater impact, but let's talk personally. How have you found being a teacher of teachers has affected your own personal finances? If you're willing to talk about that, is it better, worse, the same? Has it had a big impact on your income?
Do you mean as far as like revenue, or I mean
Your personal finances. So what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
take
Okay, okay,
home,
yeah.
how you've done yourself, because we're talking about people who are looking at the trajectory of their careers, people who might be, considering a change or a move or a way to improve their own finances, becoming a teacher of teachers the way you have, moving from coaching just individuals to actually then coaching coaches. Has that impacted your personal finances?
Yeah, absolutely. So in both good ways and bad ways, I will say. So the one thing that I want to be very transparent about, and I talk about this on my podcast, is offering a service like financial coaching to a consumer is a much harder sell than offering coaching to a coach. Okay. And so there is this idea of the coaching pyramid, right? And how this is a bad thing. So the idea is if you are a coach and you're helping people, the best way to advance your revenue is to start training other coaches. And that is very true. It is a big scalable sort of endeavor, if you will, where you could charge more maybe to a coach who can then make money off of what you're offering, right? It's a much easier direct sort of comparison of, if we charge $3,000 for the academy, well, that's one client that you could get and you would make your money back kind of thing. Where me talking with a client who is struggling financially and is in a state of a lot of the times desperation of like, I've tried everything. I still feel like I'm bad at money. And I don't mean desperation as far as like crisis mode. They're going to lose their house or they're on the verge of bankruptcy. That's not even what I mean. I mean emotionally desperate for like looking for a solution so that they can feel good with their money. It is much harder for me to say, well, go ahead and pay me though to help you, right? Like that is a much harder sell. And I want to be super transparent about that. So a lot of the times what you see is one of the reasons why I have stayed committed to both. It is why I still am a financial coach every single day and I have those conversations and I mentor coaches because it would be easier if I were to just set the fiscal fitness side of my business aside and say, I'm just going to focus on mentoring coaches. ROI and revenue and profit and loss, like all of those, it would be easier. Okay. So, in one sense, you can probably generate more revenue and scale your business easier if you are training other professionals in whatever industry you're in. I think that that is a pretty common sort of avenue, if you will. However, I think for me personally, being connected to the people we want to help every day as financial coaches is where so much of my inspiration comes from. It's where it stemmed from originally. The conversations that I have with my clients inspire my conversations with coaches, and the conversations I have with coaches influence my conversations with clients. And so, I mean, I'm always learning from the coaches I mentor and thinking of new ways I can help my clients. And then the real life conversations I'm having with my clients, I think, oh, this was such a cool example. I got to share this with coaches, right? To me, they infuse each other, but I do have two different businesses. So we do run them separately, sort of behind the scenes as far as tracking revenue and expenses and profit and all of that, and sort of running the businesses separately, two different websites and that kind of thing. But it has benefited as far as revenue, right? We have a different offer that I can sell, but it's also more complex. So when you get to the point where you want to start being a teacher or a coach of coaches, you're talking about a new offer that you're launching and designing first, and all new onboarding sequences and marketing avenues. You're essentially launching a new business. And I cannot stress that enough, right? Like you are essentially, your niche is different, the person you're serving. So your marketing message needs to be different. The examples you give are probably different. So there will always be some overlap, but you're essentially launching something new. So you want to give that some time and you're going to invest money into doing that probably, right? So you might have an investment or a cost outlay initially.
Well, Kelsa, I really wanted to thank you for coming on the show today. I really had two distinct plans for this episode. One was to talk about financial coaching, how to use a financial coach, how to become a financial coach. But I also wanted to cross the Rubicon a little bit and talk about a different way of looking at solopreneurship or entrepreneurship. A lot of times we talk about going to college, getting a job, maybe then starting our own business. But ultimately, for a lot of us, the way we get into business is we experience a problem. We work our way through that problem, maybe with help, maybe without help, realize that we'd like to help other people having this problem, and then build a business helping other people with this problem. But the last step really gets to the point where you realize you can even scale that further. And not only can you help people having that problem, but you can teach a group of people under you to help other people with that problem. In other words, see one, do one, teach one. I want to end this episode the way in every episode by having you let people know if they have questions for you, want to know about your courses, want to know about financial coaching, or just get in touch with you. What is the best way for them to do that?
Yes, thank you. We were talking right at the top of the episode how, I've been in business for so long with the online world. You can find me at fiscalfitnessphx.com or financialcoachacademy.com. But I also just want to invite conversation. I am a little old school in that way. I love just talking with people. So feel free to call me. I have an office 480-788-4588. You can also drop me an email if you're ever in the Phoenix area. I love meeting up for coffee and just talking about money or business or financial coaching and, life in general, and just trying to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. To me, that's really what this world is all about in the work that I do. And so I just really want to invite the conversation and let me know what you're up to. And otherwise, you can find me at my two websites, fiscalfitnessphx.com or financialcoachacademy.com.
Kelsa Dickey, thank you so much for coming on Earn and Invest today.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. All right, I leave things running just to catch any of what we talk about in the after show. First and foremost, anything I missed about financial coaching or about your story, and you're like, boy, I really wish we talked about that.
The only thing that I will say that I probably hear most often when telling people I'm a financial coach is this idea of you charge people who are struggling with their money, but you charge money for it. And I think that that is an important hesitation to maybe address, both because I understand it. I understand how it seems and what it sounds like, and that there's some fear around, like, how could you charge somebody when they're struggling financially
why,
already?
why don't you do everything for free? Come on, Kelsa.
Yeah. And I think the biggest there's two things that I think are at play here. One is this idea that people think what I do is just give my clients knowledge. I just share information with them about money and then send them on their way to go do it. And because so much of that information is readily available online for free, they discount what we're doing. So I will say that that's one element of simply not fully understanding maybe how hands-on we are with our clients. And then two, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So thank God you can edit.
Your turn.
Okay, yeah.
Good.
And then two, if you've never been in the position where you're struggling financially and it seems like money is limiting your life in every possible way, whether it is your career endeavors, how you feel about your family, like the food you eat, the car you drive, like if every moment of your day, it feels like money is the thing holding you back from joy or fulfillment or anything like that, doing better, you don't know the desperation that a person
Yeah.
feels for any solution that they are willing to pay for it. And this idea that, like, I'm going to put 10 things on my credit card this week. This is one more thing, but this is actually a solution in the right direction. And I am going to take that leap of faith because I'm going to do that for myself. And I also think, in the same regard, as a financial coach, we cannot have a sales strategy during a conversation where we're inviting people to work with us, where we are robbing them of agency in making that decision from a financial perspective. Because if my goal as your financial coach is to help you make a really solid financial decision over and over and over again for your life and learn how to do that, that starts from the moment we start talking. And even when it comes to the decision of deciding to hire me as your coach, right? So the idea is, like, I do not use very typical sales tactics where you trigger a nervous system response, where you make people feel uncomfortable, where you make them rush to the decision because you have to decide today or this offer is gone, or like those types of things. It's really a conversation around, I am your financial coach and I'm going to help you make a lot of financial decisions. And that first decision starts now. And I know that's awkward, but I want you to know that I actually don't have, like, I just want you to feel at the end of this conversation, whatever you decide, I want you to feel good about it. And I want you to feel confident about it. I want you to feel like it was the right decision for you, no matter what you decide, sort of thing.
I think it's hard to make the argument that people shouldn't charge for financial coaching. First and foremost, return of investment, right? Basically, return on investment actually is very, very good for financial coaches. Usually, a few of the tips, tricks, and shortcuts that a financial coach will help you with will save you tons of money down the road. So, first and foremost, I think that's an easy sell. But the other thing is, on top of all that, on top of all the tactical, I mean, financial coaching has a good deal of therapy involved. And so, someone is helping you sometimes separate your emotions from your spending habits and the things that are holding you back. And so you might not tangibly say, okay, I spent this money and I didn't make any money in return because of that. But you are getting that kind of therapy component, which I think is worth paying for a lot of people who have these maladaptive versions of money behaviors that need help.
Yeah, and what you're describing truly is the art of financial coaching. So I can point to how much debt you're going to pay off, how much money you're going to save, the financial tangible ROIs. I can point to those. We've got a bunch of those statistics right on our website. But to me, the number one statistic that's on our website that I love is that 99% of our clients feel less financial stress within
Yeah.
30 days of working with us. And it is like, to me, it is all of those intangible benefits that you also gain that are worth more in the long run, than the tangible ones. It just so happens that we get to achieve both.